Good afternoon, everyone. I'm William Asai-Renchi, a training coordinator at the Temple Small Business Development Center. The Temple SBDC helps small businesses start and grow through our no-cost consulting, webinars, and training programs. We are proud to be part of the nationally accredited network of SBDCs with over 1,000 centers across the US. You have joined us today on this webinar on the topic Trademarks. A follow-up email will be sent to our attendees within the next 2 business days with today's materials. All attendees have been muted. However, we encourage you to post any questions you may have in the Q&A and chats, and they will be answered after the presentation. Now, I turn over the floor to Liz. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. My name is Liz Jackson. I'm from the United States Patent and Trademark Office. I am the acting director of our Northeast Regional Outreach Office, of which Pennsylvania is in the Northeast for our purposes. And my whole goal is to teach intellectual property basics to as many people in the Northeast as possible and explain the value of it. So today we're focusing on trademarks. But just as a disclaimer before we get started, I'm going to be using a lot of famous trademarks as examples as we're talking today. This does not mean that those particular companies are endorsed or any way endorsed by the United States Patent and Trademark Office. They're purely for educational purposes. So let's get started. We're going to be talking about what a trademark is, and why you might consider applying for a federal trademark registration, and then what to think about before you choose your trademark, the primary concerns, and then how to file and how to keep a registration, and then we'll talk a little bit about hot topics in the trademark field right now. All right, so these are some of the famous trademarks that were in my disclaimer. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen all of them. I can only assume Apple, Ford, McDonald's, Coca-Cola. These are all famous trademarks. And what they all have in common, and in fact, what makes them a trademark, is that they all identify the source of goods and services. So McDonald's identifies the source of fast food restaurant services. Coca-Cola identifies the source of soft drink goods. Ford identifies the source of truck goods. So they all identify the source of goods and services, and the trademark is how we distinguish the goods and services of one company from that of another. So if I want to buy sneakers and I know I love Nike sneakers and I go into the store, I'm looking for the Nike trademark, that word Nike or the swoosh design, to make sure that I buy the products I want to buy and not accidentally buy a competitor's products. So the trademark is how you distinguish between those companies. And also trademark is the legal protection for a brand. So if someone is pretending to be your brand or creating counterfeit goods, the trademark law is your legal recourse. So what does a trademark not do? I feel like I have to say this because I hear all the time people say something cool and then somebody else says, you should trademark that. But a trademark does not mean that you legally own a word or phrase. And it doesn't mean that you can stop other people from saying a word or phrase. That would actually violate our First Amendment, freedom of speech. And it doesn't mean that people owe you money if they say that word or phrase. A trademark is very specific. It is used to indicate the source of goods or services. I've been saying trademark a lot, and I'll probably continue to say it, but technically speaking, trademark indicates the source of goods, like Ford and those trucks, and a service mark indicates the source of services, like McDonald's and those fast food restaurant services. But oftentimes, we just use trademark for everything, and sometimes we just say mark to mean the same thing. So these are the traditional types of marks that you'll see all around you. You'll see brand names like Coca-Cola. They can be one word or two words or more. You'll see slogans. These are common trademarks like "It's the real thing." Or logos. Logos are often designs by themselves or maybe a combination of design and wording like that "Always Coca-Cola." And so these are the vast majority of trademarks that you'll see out in commerce and what you might consider for yourself. But just for fun, I also wanted to talk about the non-traditional types of trademarks, because trademarks can be actually a great many things. It's anything that consumers associate with the source of your goods or services. So let me give you some more non-traditional marks just to get you thinking beyond the traditional. Sound can be a trademark. For example, NBC owns the bing, 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 those chimes. That's for television broadcasting services. Color can be a trademark. UPS owns the color brown for package delivery services. Because I bet if you see a brown truck and it's delivering packages, you know which company it is. It's UPS. Smell can be a trademark. Play-Doh actually owns the smell of their modeling clay. They say that when people smell that, they know the source of who provides that modeling clay. So it can be a great many things. So don't limit yourself just to, it's wonderful to have a brand name, but it can also be broader than that if that's what consumers associate with your brand. Oh, there is going to be small quizzes, but there are absolutely no repercussions. This is just for fun, so do not worry. So does a federally registered trademark mean that you own that word or phrase? And hopefully you're all shaking your head no. Again, would violate that freedom of speech. Just as a reminder about other intellectual property that exists, that's not a trademark, but also in the realm of intellectual property, property that we create from our brains, unlike property that you can hold, like tangible property. But even though this is intellectual property, it is still incredibly valuable. Just as an example, but back to Coca-Cola. But an executive of Coca-Cola once was asked what their most valuable asset was. So, what was the most valuable thing they owned? You know, it could be their factories, their bottles, anything. And he said it was their registered trademark for the wording Coca-Cola, that they could lose everything and be able to rebuild back with just that registered trademark Coca-Cola. So, intellectual property incredibly valuable. Here are the other three types besides trademarks. Patents, which protects an invention. So if you create a new machine or process, you can get a patent on it. And that's essentially a monopoly to make money on that invention for a limited time. Copyright. That protects your original artistic or literary creations. You've written a song, you've written a film, you've done a painting. It also gives you a monopoly for a limited time that only you can make money on your creation. And lastly, trade secret. This is information that has value because it is not generally known. So an example would be Coca-Cola's syrup recipe. No one but the certain people at Coca-Cola know it. And it's valuable because their competitors don't know it. And so they work hard to keep it a secret. So that's a trade secret, the last type of intellectual property. A couple other things that are not trademarks, but very, very close to trademarks. Domain name. So when you buy a web address on the internet where you can have your own website, oftentimes people think this is a registered trademark when you register a domain name. It's not. Those are two different things. It does not create a registered trademark when you register a domain name. Similarly, when you register in your state to do business and you register a trade name, that does not create a registered trademark either. That is just getting permission from your state to do business. I'll show you what these two look like. So a domain name versus trademark. Domain name is going to be in the URL line. The trademark is going to be the big centralized thing that you want consumers to notice and call for your goods or services with. So it's always going to be the biggest thing because it's what you want consumers to notice. Now, your domain name and your trademark may be the exact same wording. For example, here both of these are lowrates.com, but it doesn't have to be. Similarly, your trade name is going to often be where your address and other contact information are. So like the Philly's Best Steak Company Inc., that's what they registered with the state of Pennsylvania to be their business name. But it's different than the trademark that they want consumers to call for them, and that's Philly's Best or Philly Founder. These are both those big wording right in the middle that they want trademarks or that they want consumers to notice. So again, your trade name and trademark may be the same or it may be different. Do you have to use your business name as your trademark? So what you register with the state of Pennsylvania, do you have to also use that same business name as your trademark? Hopefully you are saying no. You can, but you don't have to. You can instead develop a very creative trademark to help consumers identify you in the marketplace. All right, so let's talk about why you'd want to register your trademark with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. We're going to talk about two ways to create trademark rights: common law and federal registration. So, first, common law trademark rights. And I think you're going to like this. The minute you start using a trademark in commerce, so you are selling something and you've put a trademark on it so that consumers can find you and recognize you and know your brand, you immediately have common law trademark rights. So that's you can soon as you're started to sell something, you can go ahead and put a TM next to that brand. TM stands for trademark, or an SM, which stands for service mark. You can use those right now if you are selling something in commerce. Um, you cannot use the R registration symbol. That is only for a federal trademark that you get when you register with our office, which we're going to talk about on the next slide. But this is the good news. If you're selling something right now with a brand on it, you have common law trademark rights. They are limited to the geographic area where the mark is used, and generally the state. So if you're selling in Pennsylvania, your protection for your common law trademark is in Pennsylvania and not beyond that. So let's talk about federal registration rights. So why you would apply for a federal trademark with our office, the United States Patent and Trademark Office. So this is, it will essentially give you legal presumption that you own the trademark, and that legal presumption is throughout the country, all 50 states and U.S. territories. And essentially is a notice to the public of your rights in the trademark. You can bring legal action concerning your trademark in federal court, which is powerful. But this next one is very good. So essentially, when you have a federal trademark registration, you can record it with U.S. Customs and Border Protection, and then they will prevent any goods from being imported into the country that infringe on your trademark. So if someone's trying to sell products with your trademark or a similar trademark to yours, it would be stopped at the border. It can also be, if you file here, used as a basis for filing in another country. So there's no such thing as a worldwide trademark right. Trademarks are territorial, meaning that every country that you want trademark protection in, you have to apply in that country. But you can, if you file here, we have international agreements and treaty obligations that you can use that filing basis as a basis for filing in another country if you're looking to expand. And obviously, you can use, if you register with our office, you get to use that R registration symbol. And you no longer need to use the TM or SM. And the R is very powerful, which lets people know that you are the owner in our federal register of that trademark. So, are you required to register your trademark with the USPTO? No, you are not. It is a choice. It is whether you want those benefits of nationwide protection and nationwide rights, but you do not have to. And remember, if you are already selling something, you probably already have common law trademark rights. Does registering your trademark with the USPTO give you international protection? And I apologize, I don't have the chat open. I'm sure that there are those of you in the chat that are getting all of these right. A plus work, all of you, and or perhaps no one is answering. But the answer to this one is no. Registering it with your trademark with the USPTO only gives you protection in the United States and its territories. All right, so you are ready to select your trademark. I want to just put some things on your radar. So the way our trademark law is written, the presumption is to register. We want to register people's trademarks. But not every trademark is registrable and not every trademark is enforceable. So when you are selecting a trademark, you want one that is federally registrable and legally protectable. And with that in mind, there are two things we're going to talk about. Two main concepts: likelihood of confusion and strength of the trademark. So, likelihood of confusion first. And I think the best way to talk about this is if you've ever seen the movie Coming to America, which I realize now it's actually was released very long time ago. But in that movie, there's a character that has a fast food restaurant and it's called McDowell's. And he says, "We're not McDonald's, we're McDowell's, and we have the golden arcs, not the golden arches. But you know that he's hoping for people to come into his restaurant thinking it's McDonald's because they are confused. And that's the whole goal. Can't register a trademark that will confuse consumers because there's already somebody else's trademark that is similar to yours. So, the test is when you apply for a trademark, and our examining attorney is going to look at your application, they're going to look at all the other registered trademarks and pending applications in our database and see if there are any trademarks that are similar to the one you want and are used on goods or services that are related to yours. So that second part of the test is very important because actually identical trademarks coexist all the time for unrelated goods. Think about Delta is the source of airline services, and Delta is also the source of faucet goods, and nobody thinks those are the same company. So, and similarly, Dove is the source of soap, and Dove is also the source of chocolate and ice cream bars, and nobody thinks those are the same company. So the test is two-part. Are the trademarks the same or similar, and are they used on goods or services that are the same or related? So we're going to do a little example. So say just so you know, we have a mascot in trademarks at the United States Patent and Trademark Office. His name is T. Markey. I wish I had a picture of him, but essentially he's the R registration symbol with hands and feet and a smile. So, and his name is T. Markey. So just for fun, we're going to pretend that you want to own the trademark T. Markey for shirts. And you look on our register and see that somebody else already owns the trademark T. Markey for pants. So you do your test. Are the marks similar? Yes, they're the same. Are the goods related? Shirts and pants. Well, the same company often sells shirts and pants. They're worn together. They're sold in the same specialty clothing stores and the same aisles. So yes, they are related. Your trademark application would get denied because of likelihood of confusion refusal. So now we've got you want to own T Markey for shirts, and there is already a registered mark for T Markey for pants. So in this sense, the marks are not the same, but they're pronounced the same. I think if somebody said, "Hey, do you have the T Markey brand?" They would sound the same. So they're still very similar, and we know that shirts and pants are related. So here, this also mark would get rejected for likelihood of confusion with a registered trademark. All right, last one. So now you still want to own T Markey for shirts, and there's a registered trademark for T Markey for golf flags. The marks are similar because they're pronounced the same way, but shirts and golf flags, are those provided often sold by the same company or in the same specialty stores or in the same aisle of a larger store? I don't think so. I don't think these are related. So you can always do a little research to see, but these do not seem related to me, and you would get this trademark application. So essentially, when you have a trademark you're thinking about putting on your goods or services, the first thing you want to do is go to our USPTO database. So the link is at the bottom, uspto.gov/search trademarks, and put in the trademark that you want. But after you do, make sure you're looking at, if there's somebody else that already owns it, make sure you're looking at what they're using it on. Because if it's unrelated to what you're selling, then it's okay for you both to have that same trademark. And I will show you because we have some brand new news on our website for how to search. So I'm going to show you some screenshots. But the other thing you would do, just to see if there's anyone else who might have some common law trademarks, trademark rights in the mark you want, also search the internet. Make sure and see if anyone else is using the trademark you want on goods or services similar to yours. So this is brand new as of last month. When you go to our website to search to see if somebody else owns a trademark like similar to yours, we now actually have an AI search that you can use. This is for design, like if you want that logo or design as a trademark, you can upload it. Here, let me show you. So, for example, pretend you want to own that dragon mark right there. You would upload it into your account and then press search. And then our system is going to show you similar designs, which is pretty dang cool. Make sure, again, look, see how you can see under each mark it shows the goods and services. For example, that first one's on computer software. So that's what you're going to be looking to see if it's related to what you are selling. Also, notice that red, it says dead and it says live in green. So red marks mean they are not registered and they don't have any, that registrant does not own that anymore. But still, so those are not as important, but you might look to see if, did it recently die? Maybe they're going to revive it, that kind of thing. So just kind of be wary of it. But in general, you're going to focus on live marks that are used on goods or services similar to yours. So first, so this is if you want to hire a private trademark attorney to help you, but I have to tell you before you do, please try the search yourself on our website. Um, it's called just a clearance search where you just put the trademark wording in or upload that design and just get an idea if anybody else owns it. I think this is something you should definitely try yourself first if you can. If it's overwhelming or if you're worried about any particular other marks, you can certainly hire a private trademark attorney. There's many wonderful ones. We're not allowed to recommend anybody, but we have a resource on our website about why you might want to hire one. They'll do a comprehensive search where they're looking at our database and registrations. They're also looking at trademark databases. And even though business names and trademarks are different, they're looking at business name registries. They're looking at foreign trademark databases just to see if anybody might also want your trademark and the internet. Oh, last quiz. Your trademark, you want to own the wording X seed for agricultural seeds, and there's already a registered trademark for X seed for live plants. So, um, what do we think? The marks sound the same when I say them, even though they look a little different. And then agricultural seeds and live plants, I think those are sold in the same garden centers and nurseries. And so I would say this would get refused. Hopefully you agree. All right, now this is the other main consideration when you're choosing a trademark. So, not all trademarks are created equal. So we want to use a trademark that actually indicates the source of goods and services, and some don't. Um, the ones who don't are as if that trademark merely describes the goods and services. And I'll give you some examples. This is our spectrum of strength of the trademark. And we're going to start at the very bottom with the weakest possible trademark. Are the generic term for the goods or services you sell. For example, say you sell apples and you want the trademark to be Apple. That we will not let you have. We will say that people will not see that as a trademark. They'll see that you're merely saying what you sell. And it's the generic name for the goods you provide. So it will get rejected as a trademark. But on the flip side of this spectrum, say you sell computers and you want to own the word Apple. Well, Apple doesn't say anything about a computer or any features about it or describe it. It's an arbitrary word for computers. So that's one of the strongest. And as you know, Apple is a trademark for a computer company. So that's a very strong trademark. Let's go back down to the blue zone. The blue zone here is bad. So we've got this descriptive category. So say you sell apples and you want the trademark red for apples. Well, that merely describes the color of the apple, and we will refuse it because we'll say that people will understand it as merely describing a feature about your goods and not that it's a trademark for your goods. So this will also get rejected. So that's just to wet your whistle because we're going to go ahead and talk about each category in more detail. So this is again generic, the worst kind. It is common everyday name for the goods or services you provide, and it is unregisterable as a trademark with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. So say you sell dairy-based beverages and you want to own the trademark milk. We will not let you. It is the generic name for the goods you sell. That's at the bottom of the spectrum. It is unregisterable. Above that, descriptive trademarks. So the word you want to own directly describes something about the goods or services you sell, like red for apples or scoop for ice cream. These are also unregisterable on the principal register, but You can become registered if you're able to prove it to us. So, if you are able to show that you've acquired distinctiveness, so the burden is on you. And let me give you an example. iPhone, not to go back to Apple, but iPhone stands for Internet Phone. That's what I stands for. And it initially got rejected for being descriptive of a phone that connects to the internet. And Apple was able to prove that through all their marketing and all their sales and all their consumer surveys that purchasers, when they heard iPhone, did not think it was merely describing the phone, but was actually indicating the source, that they knew iPhone was Apple. So it was registrable through acquired distinctiveness. But I would recommend, unless you have a, if you, unless you want to meet that higher burden, to not choose a descriptive trademark. So you don't have to do that to go through that. So suggestive trademarks, these are in the red zone. These are good. We have moved up the spectrum into the good zone. So a suggestive trademark, it suggests a quality of the goods or services, but doesn't actually describe something about them. And these are registrable good trademarks. An example would be Coppertone for suntan lotion. It doesn't actually describe anything about the lotion. It just kind of suggests that you might have a nice brown tone if you use the suntan lotion. So these are good trademarks. The next category is fanciful trademarks. So these are made up words, invented words with no meaning in any language. And they are great trademarks, registerable. An example would be Xerox for photocopiers. Again, that is a made up word, Xerox. Also, Kodak, Kleenex, Pepsi. These words did not exist until a company made them up. And these are very strong trademarks. The other very strong trademark is our arbitrary trademarks. So these are actual words, but they have no association with the goods and services that they are being used on. Um, so, for example, Apple for computers, like we talked about, BlackBerry for phones, Gap for clothing. So, Gap is an English word we all know the meaning of, but it doesn't mean anything when used on clothing. It doesn't describe anything about the clothing. So, again, very strong trademarks. Knowledge check. So, which one is registrable? Bicycle for bicycles or bicycle for playing cards? Hopefully, you've noticed that bicycle for bicycles is the generic name for the goods, and that is the weakest, and it's not registrable. And bicycle for playing cards is arbitrary and very strong. Great trademark. So, all right, let's talk the filing process. So when you file through our website, uspto.gov, you'll create a uspto.gov account and then you will file your application online. It actually doesn't take very long, but then it'll get reviewed by a trademark examining attorney within about 4.5 months. That examining attorney is going to do a search to see if there are any other registered trademarks where there would be a likelihood of confusion. They're going to determine how strong your trademark is, the two things we talked about today. They're also going to make sure you hit all of our requirements that you need to have. If everything is perfect after the examining attorney has done their search and reviewed your application, then they approve it for publication. And it gets published in our official gazette for 30 days, in which time, if there are any third parties who do not believe you should own the trademark, that is their 30-day window to oppose your registration of it. And if no one opposes it, then it becomes registered and you get to use that R registration symbol and all the benefits that come along with it. Where this can be slowed down a little bit is during examination if the examining attorney does need to issue a refusal, which again, this is if they do issue a refusal, either with a refusal or a requirement, again, not something to be intimidated by. This is a very normal process. You have 3 months to respond to it. Sometimes it's as easy as providing whatever they've required, whatever information they need. Other times, if there's a refusal, you might be providing arguments or evidence. So you have 3 months to respond. If they are convinced after your response, they can go ahead and publish it then, or they issue a final office action, and you still have another chance to respond. If they're still not convinced by your response, you can file an appeal to our trademark trial and appeal board, in which case a judge, so a panel of judges decide. So that examination process can be longer or shorter depending on the application. So we have a new website in the last year called Trademark Center. So that's where you actually apply. I think it's a lot better than our old system for applying online. It's a mobile friendly design and it has like a guided user interface that takes you through the process. And it saves it every 60 seconds. And here's what I think is the coolest part is that as you're filling out your application and you're providing information about the mark you want to own on the goods and services you're going to use it on and providing information, it will tell you if additional information is needed. For example, if you have a mark that you want to own a trademark in a foreign language, you need to provide the English translation. So it will tell you you need to provide a translation or you have to pay this fee. And so you can go ahead and provide the translation and then the fee goes away as you're filling out the application. So you can go ahead and change if an extra fee is triggered, which is pretty nice. Okay, so here are things to think about as you're applying. You will need to show us a clear drawing of your trademark. I know we call it a drawing, which is a little weird. It makes sense if it's a design, but say you just want to own a word, it's still called the drawing of your trademark. It needs to be clear, and here's the important part. You cannot change it to something else after you apply. So you've applied with our office, and then a month later, you realize you'd prefer it to be different and you want to change it. We won't let you because people are already looking at our register and making business decisions about what they want their trademark to be based on what's applied before them. So they might have already changed what they want their trademark to be based on what you initially filed with. So that's why we cannot let you amend to something else after you've filed your initial trademark application. Similarly, you will, when you apply, need to know what goods and services that your trademark is being used on. Do you sell shoes or do you sell perfume or do you sell medical services? Same with the drawing. You cannot change your goods and services to something else after you apply for the same reason, which is people are making business decisions they're looking to see if someone owns their trademark. They see that you own goods and services that are related to theirs, so they change their trademark. So that's why we cannot allow you to change it to something else after you've applied. When you apply, we have what's called a filing basis, and the main ones are intent to use, which is you have not yet started using your trademark in commerce on goods and services yet, but you have a bona fide intent to. Or, so there's intent to use, and then there's use-based, which means you are already using it in commerce. And if you file with the use-based, we'll actually ask you for proof. So a picture of your packaging, a picture of your label, a picture of your tag, or a picture of your website or your advertisements for your services. You also need contact information, so your email address and also your mailing address. A phone number is optional. And as we'll talk about in a little bit, I don't recommend that you do provide your phone number because we've had some issues with scammers texting people and pretending to be the USPTO. So don't provide your phone number. And then last, the filing fee, and we'll talk about that one. So a filing fee, so a way to think about it is $350, but actually that's per class. So we organize our goods and services into categories. So all clothing items, shoes, jackets, hats, pants, those are all in class 25, and that would be $350 for that, all or any goods in that class. But say you also sell necklaces and bracelets and jewelry and earrings, those are all in class 14. So that would be an additional $350. So think of it as $350 per category of goods or services. And you can pay for as many as you want, or you can just choose what you're primarily selling. There are additional fees, like we talked about with a trademark in a foreign language. You're going to need to provide an English translation. If the trademark is a full name, we're going to need the consent of the named individual. So these are the kind of insufficient information that might trigger $100 per class. But hopefully you can avoid, and you'll be able to provide all that information and not have to pay an additional fee. Also, additional fees. So we have what's called the ID manual, which is intended to be a comprehensive list of all potential goods and services. We hope, it's software, it's sensors, it's pharmaceuticals, it's musical instruments, it's hopefully everything you can possibly think of, and you just select your identification of goods or services right out of that ID manual. Um, but if you don't and you'd rather write your own goods and services, you would have to pay a fee. And then if you decide to write your own and it's incredibly, incredibly long, over 1,000 characters, then it's an additional fee. So I definitely recommend choosing out of that ID manual. If you're providing something new or that's not in that ID manual, we actually have an option to add items for free to our ID manual that you can do. It's a form on our website. If you're not in necessarily a hurry, I would suggest doing that free route as opposed to paying the free form text ID fee. So these are common bases for refusal that you might see during the examination of your trademark application. I think you guys know likelihood of confusion very well, and you also know merely descriptive. Just going to throw a few other refusals out there so they don't come as a surprise. Um, Geographically descriptive is very similar to merely descriptive, but it's a geographic place. So, say you are from Philadelphia, you have a grocery store in Philadelphia and you want to own the trademark Philadelphia for grocery store services. We're going to say that people will understand that merely saying where your services are located and not as the trademark. So that's geographically descriptive. Like descriptive, though, you can prove to us that it is a trademark. But again, the burden is on you. So I would perhaps stay away from geographic terms. Another refusal is the specimen does not support use for the listed items. So you've identified all these goods. Maybe you have a bunch of clothing in class 25, jackets and shoes and pants, but your specimen actually shows a shirt with your trademark on it. That it has the specimen, that proof of use has that label, that package, that website that we talked about. It has to show one of the goods or services that you've listed in your identification of goods or services. It has to be one of the ones you've listed. And then last, trademark used in an ornamental manner. So, in general, trademarks, are on the tag or on the label. Sometimes they're very small, right here in the upper. Oh, sorry, you can't see it up here, like, where a polo would be on a polo shirt or Ralph Lauren's trademark on a polo shirt. But other times there's like a huge message across the front of your shirt. For example, it might say, "Have a nice day." Um, and we will say that that's not a trademark. That's merely a cool message or ornamental design across the front of your t-shirt, and people wouldn't actually see it as a trademark. So something to think about, that it should be on the label, it should be on the tag. That's where consumers are used to seeing trademarks. So once you're registered with our office, we give you that registration. It's up to you then to enforce your trademark rights. So to monitor and see if anybody is pretending to be your company or using your trademark without your permission. You can then send them a cease and desist letter saying, "Hey, stop it." Or you can file a lawsuit, because they're infringing you. But it's up to you to kind of monitor and enforce your trademark. In addition, unlike other forms of intellectual property, trademarks can last forever as long as you're still using it. We don't want to keep protecting or, protect your ownership of it if you're no longer using it. But if you are, we allow you to continue owning it forever or indefinitely. So we do require you to file post-registration.
Hi, Elizabeth. Yeah, we can hear you.
I think I accidentally muted myself. How long ago or how long have I been muted?
Oh, just few seconds.
Oh, good. Okay. I was like 20 minutes. No, okay, good. Um, oh, so just the post-registration documents. So essentially, we require you to show proof that you're still using it and pay a fee. And this would be 5 to 6 years after you're registered, and then 10 years after you're registered, and every 10 years after that. So as long as you're still using it, every 10 years, you show us proof and pay a fee. All right. Oh, are you guaranteed if you apply to our office for your trademark, are you guaranteed registration of it? Um, and the answer is no. It has to be examined before it can be registered, and the examining attorney is going to be looking for those things we talked about, like likelihood of confusion, strength of the mark, and registration is not guaranteed, but hopefully you guys will each get registered. If your trademark registers, do you have to do anything to keep your registration alive? This was very recently answered. Yes, you do. You have to continue to file those required post-registration documents. All right, we'll do a few hot topics. The first one is a bad one, and the second one is a better one. Scams. So, what happens when we talked about how when you apply for a trademark application, it's public record? Because again, other businesses are looking at our database to see who owns what and to determine what their trademark should be based on if somebody else owns something that they want, they'll change it, etc. So, it has to be public. But because it is public, there are scammers that can go after you and pretend and try to get money out of you. This is pretty much your class. If you've ever seen scams in other industries, it's the same thing. They often say, you better pay us $500 within the next 24 hours or your trademark's going to abandon. Um, and you'll be scared, but that's what they hope for, that you'll just pay without thinking. But if anybody asks you for money, please go to our website first, uspto.gov/trademark scams. Though I can pretty much guarantee you that if they're asking you for money and putting a short time frame and trying to panic you, I can almost guarantee you it is a scam. So please do not do it. Please do not pay anything until you've checked our resources. Um, in general, anything coming from us is going to have a .gov email address. So that's one way to look for it. But we have had issues. So we are the United States Patent and Trademark Office. We are the only register of federal trademarks. But scammers will often try to have a name like Patent and Trademark Administration DC or like something that seems official, but they're not official. We are actually working very hard. We get anyone who registers a domain name like ours, we get it taken down, we get it suspended. So we're working hard. If you do get scammed, feel free to email tmscams@uspto.gov or me. I'll put my email address in the chat at the end. Because we try to keep up on the whack-a-mole game of what scammers are doing. But just don't pay. Just don't pay, guys. This is our trademark scam social toolkit. Again, the classic signs of a scam is that pressure to act immediately, demands for payment, often typographical or grammatical errors in it, requests for personal information. So these are all things, if you see any of these, stop communicating, do not pay. But this is on a brighter note. The other thing that is kind of big in the trademark world right now, NIL or name, image, likeness. It's kind of a big deal in the athletic realm where athletes, high school athletes sign a deal with a college and the college pays them money so that they can use their NIL. But what happens when this NIL deal is made is it doesn't prevent other third parties from using that athlete's name, image, or likeness without their permission. So we're hoping to show how trademarks can be a way of protection for this. But it's important to know the difference between trademark and NIL. So NIL refers to you. It is your name, your image, or likeness. It identifies your personal identity. That's Michael Jordan. That's his likeness. But when his likeness is used on a shoe, it becomes a trademark. When it is used as the source of goods or services, that NIL becomes a trademark. And so it's something to think about if you are providing goods or services under your name or your likeness. And this is our new NIL website, all about protecting your personal brand. And obviously, we're talking about athletes here, but it's influencers or it's celebrities, it's anyone in danger of somebody else pretending to be them, or maybe AI deepfakes pretending to be them. So trademark protection can help against that. Here are all our resources. So uspto.gov is our website. That's where you would apply or find out more. We also have our TM videos. So we try to do as much as possible is to create short videos that you can click on for, how to file or how to check your application status or how to search. So you can click on each part. But if you want the whole process again, you couldn't get enough after today's webinar. We also have our Trademark Basics toolkit it's the whole thing, the whole process. We also have an IP identifier. This is so beyond trademarks. You can go there and type in what you want to protect, and it'll actually tell you what type of intellectual property is most applicable. So patent or copyright or trademark or trade secret. So it's a cool new resource. We also have so many free services and resources that I'd love you to partake, trainings and events. Please see what's going on. And then we also have a new virtual assistant on our trademarks website. It's like a chat bot that you can ask questions to while you're applying or while you're doing your research. This is our Trademark Assistance Center. It's a phone number and a website or in an email. And essentially, as you're filing your application, if you're stymied by something or something throws you off or you're not quite sure, just call them up and they'll help you through it. As a last note, the USPTO does not, including me, I cannot provide legal advice for you or enforce your legal rights, and we cannot recommend specific private attorneys. And the best resource is an experienced trademark attorney if you'd like to consult one. And be aware of trademark filing companies that look like they are attorneys, but they're actually just taking your fee to file. Make sure whoever you hire is actually an attorney and not just a filing company. And then these are all resources if you'd like to save money. The first is my favorite, the USPTO Law School Clinic Certification Program. So essentially, at a lot of law schools, there are clinics for students to practice in intellectual property, and the USPTO has certified certain clinics to practice before us, including the one I went to at American University in DC. Essentially, these law students want to practice and learn and want to practice filing trademark attorney or trademark applications and want to file patent applications, and you need free legal help. They'll do it for free. Everybody wins. So consider hiring an IP clinic. Intellectual property means IP clinic. The American Bar Association also has resources for pro bono, so providing legal services for free, as does the International Trademark Association, or INTA. They also have a pro bono program. And then throughout the country, we have patent and trademark resource centers. So they're often in libraries in every state, like a public library. And there'll be one person there that knows everything about patents and trademarks and can help you. And you can just go to our PTRC website to find the newest one. But I know we have one in Philadelphia. So, and then obviously SBA programs are wonderful partners, and SBDCs, of course. So that is it for my presentation. We want to do stop
Yeah,
share.
so there are a couple of questions in the Q&A section.
Sure.
Uh, do you want to check them out, or I should just read it for you?
I can open it up.
Okay.
Let me see. Should I go back to the beginning, I suppose? Oh, a lot of your mic cut away. Sorry about that, guys. Oh, but I bet look how many people got right answers to the quizzes. Thank you, guys. Okay. All right. So where is the first question? Oh, do you lose your registration money if you find something similar? So yes. So if you've applied for your trademark application and the examining attorney refuses it, yeah, you do not get a refund on your application money. So make sure you're doing that search beforehand. Do they still send out a second letter via mail for you to state that you still want the trademark? Well, you obviously, after they refuse it, you get an opportunity to argue and explain whatever in response to whatever they've said in their office action. Um, so yes, you always have a chance to argue. You actually have two or three chances to argue, and explain that you still want this trademark and why, their refusal shouldn't stand. Oh, lost sound, lost sound. Sorry about that. Oh, man. Okay. Oh, what is R in a circle? What does it mean? It actually stands for registered. So it means registered with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. You have a federal trademark registration when you use that R registration symbol. So if you see somebody else with that R registration symbol next to their trademark, you know it's registered with our office. Oh, look, you guys are answering each other. This is great. Wow, what a great group. Um, okay. Oh, explained about the wait on those university IP clinics. Yeah, I know the one I was in American has a wait list. I don't know if all do, but yeah, potentially. Um, so what is the real risk of using non-federally protected trademark? If you're not worried about other people, using the trademark you have, um, this is not something you necessarily have to consider. But if you are worried about another company using your trademark, infringing your rights, pretending to be you, then definitely want to get a registration. But again, up to you. It does give you the rights to go after anybody who's pretending to be you. If you can afford that $350, I think it's a great investment. It gives you that intellectual property. You own that trademark. It's yours. And that's powerful and valuable. So, um, yep. If I'm, oh, I have an account. Again, I cannot give legal advice about whether you particularly should file a trademark application. I can just give you the benefits of doing so. So. If I'm setting up a fresh juice company, can I file a single application for the trademark for the company and any product names? So you can apply for as many trademark applications as you want, and I have to give you one bit of guidance. So because I see this a lot where people want to own more than one thing, and so they put it all in one trademark application. Say I want to own Liz Jackson, and I want to own a product line called Pink Jackets, and I put them all together. Well, that examining attorney is going to make sure that on your specimen, your website, your label, your tag, that you're using it as you presented it. So they're going to look for Liz Jackson Pink Jackets all together. And maybe that's not how I'm actually using it. Maybe Liz Jackson is my overarching brand name, Pink Jackets is a product line, and they're not going to be shown right next to each other like in the trademark application. And so I need to have two different trademark applications, if that makes sense. So think about how it'll be displayed for consumers and whether they're going to read it all together or if it needs to be applied separately because they're going to be separable trademarks on your goods or services. And yep, once it's your trademark, it can be yours for life as long as you are paying your maintenance fees and filing that proof of still use. Oh,
Okay.
thanks, guys.
Yeah, so there are other questions on the Q&A
Oh,
section.
sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So, what are the differences between a trademark, service mark, and registered mark? So yes, that is what I think people always need to know. So when you see a TM, that stands for trademark, and it means you are not registered with our office, but you are using it as a trademark and generally indicates common law trademark rights. Service mark, again, used on services, so like hospital services or restaurant services, as opposed to goods like sneakers or hairbrushes. So you'd put that SM. And that means you're not registered with our office, but you're giving notice to people that you have common law trademark rights in that brand. A registered mark, that R registration symbol, means you are registered with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. So yes, you can use, if they ask, can any of the actual marks TM, SM, or R be used prior to being officially approved by the USPTO? Yes, you can use the TM or SM before you are registered with our office. And indefinitely if you do not choose to apply to our office. But once you are registered with our office, you use that circle R. Um, I think we've talked about the pros and cons of each. So TM and SM are going to refer to those common law rights that are limited to your state. The R circle symbol is going to give you nationwide protection, protection at the border, ability to file in federal court, those kind of things. Um, oh, yeah, sorry, there's questions in both now. How exciting. Okay, what is the difference between intellectual property and the various trademarks? Can IP be a trademark? Yes. So IP is a broad category of property that was created by your brain. Trademarks are a type of IP. So trademarks are brands were created by your brain, as were patents, the inventions, copyrights, your works of art, and trade secrets, which is a great segue to the person who asked about how do you protect trade secrets. So trade secrets, again, is intellectual property that you keep secret and gives you a competitive advantage. So you need to limit the amount of people who know about it. So this would be Coca-Cola's syrup or KFC's 11 herbs and spices or Google's algorithm. Um, and you need to have people who do find out about it need to sign, your employees who do need to know about it need to sign non-disclosure agreements like NDAs. You're going to take physical security measures or cybersecurity measures to keep it secret. So yes, you need to be able to keep it secret. Let me see if any of these questions are natural segues. Um, so in general, the accounting firms. So in general, all services, if you want consumers to find your company, a trademark is how they do. So in general, when we talk about if goods or services need a trademark, well, if you want consumers to find you, then you need a trademark. That doesn't necessarily mean you need to register with our office, but yes, every business who sells products needs to have a trademark or some way for consumers to know you. Um, let's see. What? Yeah, slogans. Slogans can a phrase like can indicate source. I can't think of anything. Oh, what was Coca-Cola's The Real Thing or I can't think of, oh, Nationwide is on your side. I'm thinking of all these slogans. So yes, trademarks can be a brand, but also a sentence or a phrase. Um, I'm not sure if UPenn's clinic is approved by the USPTO, but if you go to our website, USPTO, we have the certified clinic list, um, and it's organized by state, I believe, or alphabetical order, and you can check. Um, and I can check it right now, but I feel like I should ask these questions next few minutes instead. Oh yes, just do it. That's a great trademarked phrase. So. So can I trademark my name and sell multiple items, but only have one item you can show proof of? So our test is you need to show proof of one item within each class or each category. So if you want to own your trademark for clothing in class 25 and jewelry in class 14, and you've identified several items in each of those classes, pants and jackets and shoes, but you only have to show one of those for class 25. And for jewelry, again, you need to show one of those in class 14. So hopefully that answers your question. Forgot there's somebody who asked about changing. Oh, is it possible to update my email address and website after submitting my application? Yes, email address. We have what's called a CAR form. It stands for correspondence and something. I forgot what it stands for, but yes, it'll say update your correspondence information, and you can do that. Website, it's a little trickier in terms of, do you mean the website that's used for our specimen, so our proof of use? Um, yeah, that you cannot change if you've already asserted that you're using it in commerce, because it needs to be using as of the day you applied. Um, so did I do everything-ish? I do need to go to 1 o'clock, but this is very fun, and you guys have all had good questions and interactions. So, I really appreciate you having me.
Thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you, Liz, for presenting today. A survey for today's presentation has been posted in the chat box. We actually value your feedback, and it's also required by our funders to continue to provide these no-cost webinars. A follow-up email will be sent to attendees within the next 2 business days with today's materials attached, including the recording for the presentation. So guys, have a nice day. And this is the end of the webinar. Thank you all for joining. Bye.
Thank you.